So finally, it seems that it works. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Yeah, the whole thing got messed up because while I was coming in, Zoom was updating, and after that, somehow it didn't want to let me come in. Asked me to close the other meeting, and then Lutz wrote me everybody was kicked out. So now everybody is muted also. We had quite some sounds here. Anyhow, there we are with a little delay. I will go straight to a question that Marie asked. We talked the last time about letting old stuff come up, not shying away from it, and then just watch what it is doing to your experience right now, and there you can let it go. And she asked, but then how, what does that mean? If you watch what it is doing to your experience right now, is it necessary to make an intent that the old story is going, or how do we let it go? And actually, you can do that in different ways, but what I'm usually recommending, because that's what works best for me, is very simple. If old stories come, then along with it come all the memories, the emotions, the tensions, and instead of getting caught up in the story again, you just watch what it is doing right now in the body, energetically. You watch what kind of tensions it's had. Dial, can you please turn off your microphone? Thank you. And when you see how the body is getting tense with the memories, the way how to detach from the story is simply relax. Physically relax. Relax your legs, relax your feet. The rest of the body starts to relax. Even if you find centers of tension, don't try too much to go into that center and relax that. Just relax the whole rest of the body. And then this also will relax. And being aware of the emotions, of the memories, of the tensions, and there starting to relax, it happens automatically that you start to detach from that story. It happens automatically that that power that is still locked in that memory and it has been suppressed in the subconscious is getting diffused. It may not go in one session, but maybe after some time you feel fine. Then you can let it go. You don't have to go and dig for it. Just let it go and be here now in your meditation. Another day it may come back, but because you have already done it, you just let it come and relax, and it goes already much easier. Sure, there are other ways to go about it. You can call to God, look what is happening, please help me, please take this away. You can just inquire, who is feeling these tensions? Who is remembering? What is it that makes the experience possible? But the relaxing part somehow has to come in all the time. So I'm going usually directly for that. It's very simple, and for me, it's how it works best, easiest. If there is a tension, just watch it and relax, and it's already going. And if we treat, it's not that we have to do complicated mechanisms, complicated practices, complicated techniques. Just seeing what is happening, and then start on the easiest level. Relax. Relax your legs and let go. I have told that also often here in the Satsang on the roof, relax your legs. And one friend told me, after having come for years for a Satsang, I'm always thinking, what the hell is Werner talking about? What is this going to do? Relax your legs. But I told her, but try, do it. It's so simple. Because the tendency is when there is tension, immediately we are cramping up the legs without being aware of it. But what should this do spiritually? What should this do to let go of things? Well, I said, just stop that resistance and try. And it took quite some more time until somehow that block disappeared. And she tried and she came very excited and said, my God, it's really working. I somehow simply couldn't do it. But a simple thing like when you're feeling tensions, then consciously start to relax your legs and feet. It's like you are already a good part of the energy that is locked into it. It's simply going. My experience is in my whole way that the simplest approaches, the simplest techniques are the most efficient, the most powerful. If we have the heart to really try it and not think from the beginning it's so silly, it's so simple, how could it do something? And then there is also a number of spiritual teachers, they make a clear distinction. There is psychology and there is spirituality, and say these are two totally different things. And I don't think that it is true that you can separate it like this. Psychology, as it is usually practiced, of course, is limiting their attention on the psychological level, trying to somehow repair psychological imbalances that people get balanced enough that they are again functional in society. And spirituality goes beyond that, sure. But we cannot exclude the psychological part. For as long as we are full of psychological tensions, then this stands in the way that we can really open up spiritually. What does it mean, spirituality? For me, it doesn't mean some kind of hunt for mystical, extraordinary experiences. Many people talk about spirituality and think about subtle realities, traveling in other worlds, doing all kinds of things. Exotic powers. For me, spirituality simply means that we are capable to bring the attention back to the root, to that pure consciousness love energy that is the base of this manifestation. You bring the attention back and get rooted in that. And then what one has experiences is very different from one to another. There is no point in saying it's like this or like that. But that we are capable of coming back to that first expression of that mystery of the divine, that pure consciousness, the pure love, the pure energy. We have to some extent remove the psychological blocks. If they are too strong, it's simply not possible. So we cannot say, I'm going on the spiritual path, I'm not interested in psychology. It just postpones the thing. We may be capable of pushing it away, but it will be there nagging and creating troubles. I have been doing that for quite a while. When I started to really sit and sit and sit, when in the beginning I was with Amma, and they didn't want to address my psychological stuff. It was simply postponing and creating a lot of unnecessary strain and pain. I had to surrender to the fact that it's there. And even if I was not interested in looking on my psychological stuff, I had to admit that I need to do so because there is too much there that I cannot simply relax and be at peace. It's spoiling, it's struggling, it's working there. And so I had to accept that a lot of the time when I was sitting, I was busy with old stuff and learning to detach. And gradually at that time I wasn't as clear as now about it. But gradually I had to learn that somehow I have to let it come but not get lost in it. But be here now and watch what it is doing to the experience right now. And if there we learn to relax, it's diffusing by itself. No need of anything complicated. So I hope I have answered your question, Marie. And then she asked the second question about the alertness in meditation and not in official meditation. And she quoted a Zen story that the student came into the room of the master and the master asked him how many pairs of shoes were there outside. And the student didn't know, and so that was looked at as a serious mistake. Now, maybe Marie is wondering, does that alertness mean that we have to be always aware of every damn detail that is going on around us? This is just one way one can go about it. And Zen practitioners are very much busy with that, being very, in order to practice that mindfulness, be very aware of what is happening on this level. It's one way to bring the attention to the present. It's not the only way. You can also focus much more on your breathing, on your body sensations, and bring the attention here, and then not care too much how many pairs of shoes are in front of a door or not. But this is specifically in the Zen way, they give very much emphasis on that. It doesn't matter. We just have to find one way that is convenient for us, that seems appealing for us to bring the attention to that timelessness of the now. And that is that alertness that is asked for. whether we are sitting in meditation or whether we are walking on the road, whether we are alone or whether we are with people. But we can learn to do it playfully. We don't have to have the feeling, oh, it's a terrible job, it's a terrible task, it's just another big burden that I have shouldered. My spirituality being alert. Oh. Be sincere about it, but not tense about it. We can be very sincere and at the same time learn to be playful about it. When we become aware, oh, I have been going off for God knows how long time, turning around somewhere, being not in the timelessness of the now, being not conscious in the timelessness of the now. In the reality, of course, we can never leave it, but our attention can build castles and worlds and be anywhere but here. So we can learn that when we become aware of that we just connect without the fuss, without, okay, here I am, here now, relaxed, joyously, playfully. Got me again, so what? Now I'm back. And then it doesn't look so a terrible thing to do. And it's not a new heavy task, but it's getting lighter and lighter, and we can, in course of the process, shed all the unnecessary heaviness that we are carrying on our shoulder. If we don't hold on to that old stuff, to that unnecessary stuff, then here and now is very light and joyous and playful. Okay, I hope your second question also is answered, Marie. Then I'm asking you, my friends, is there anyone who would like to come in and say something? You are welcome to do so.
Hari Om, Werner.
Hari Om, Maria.
Hello. Yeah, my question is around the psychological stuff that you were mentioning before.
Yes.
I have become very aware lately about when I am in a group or in interaction with friends or people from my community, also outside, but close relationships, about something I haven't noticed so much before. These days I call it ego massaging, which is the use of praise, you know?
Yeah.
But a use of praise that somehow it doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of, it's like my attention just seems to go a lot into that, into how I initiate it or how somebody else initiates it and how it just, that dynamic. And I've been reflecting on it, and I feel that in my personal journey, when I was a child, and I'm assuming this is the story of the majority of humanity, there was so little positive reinforcement, so little praise. I mean, it was at the school, we just got some marks, and verbally we were only basically told off, but very rarely it was, okay, well done, you have a capacity for this or that. You know, verbally there was no positive reinforcement. It was definitely in Spain when I was brought up, that was not the norm. So I felt when I grew up, I at one point I realized I had so much need for somebody telling me you are okay, you know, and yeah, hearing it from people. And then, but then it was kind of unconscious. And then it came a point when now I look backward and I realized when I did a lot of self-development courses and training and so on, deep down there was still that need for that.
Yes, right.
And I see that lots of the people who were involved were as caught as I was in that. So it's this desperation to become somebody who is skilled at something and then get the positive reinforcement from colleagues, from students, from whoever. But now I'm coming to see, and I still believe that positive, a positive attitude, appreciation, and doing that verbally is a good thing to do for everybody. But now I see how unconsciously there is like a kind of mechanism.
Sorry, Maria, dial your microphone is on again. Can you turn it off, please? You're interfering. Yeah.
Right?
Okay, Maria, you can continue. Textile.
So it's like I can see that it's an unconscious mechanism that is using praise to be in the good books or to be appreciated in exchange, or you know, and that happens a lot when I look around, a lot in friendships, and so now I'm coming to the point where I can see it. And I see that it's necessary also to free myself from that. It's the fear of punishment and the need for praise, like the two big mechanisms. And yeah, so I don't have a specific question, but I'd love you to comment on that. Yeah.
Right, right. Yes, this is being used a lot. And of course, there is absolutely nothing wrong with giving positive feedback to people, if it's coming from the heart. And especially you mentioned your upbringing, it would be very, very good for children if they're being encouraged instead of, letting things pass and just criticized if when something is not good. It helps to develop in a way when a child grows up, because we are in a society full of egos. Invariably the child is also developing an ego, so it's better off developing a strong ego than a weak ego. And the strong ego can be easier detached from than a weak ego that is always in fear and insecure. And also, as a spiritual teacher, it's very helpful for the students if they get positive feedback. But then, as you has described it, as it's used in society, most of the time when somebody praises, then there is a hook in it because they want something back. And that, of course, if you see that that is happening, there you can put a block and say, no, it's not necessary. I don't need to do that. And if you then still genuinely feel like making a compliment, you still can make the compliment. But but that business attitude, of course, is always bringing in a negative, destructive aspect. I just flatter a bit and then I'm getting what I want. This is also not the praise that really supports. Momentary, it may feel good for the person who gets it, but since there is no reality and no sincerity in it, it's not really nourishing. But if you from the heart feel somebody is there and somehow they really manage the situation well, and you feel it's a good thing to manifest it, then by all means manifest it. That's good for you and it's good for the other one. And when it's coming to you, you can also grateful accept it, and you can discern, there is just flattering. He has an axe to grind somewhere. So it's not basically something good or bad. It depends what the attitude is. But to positively give support and get support is something very healthy and very nourishing.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that about criticism, in a way, is a bit the same, isn't it? Because sometimes, I mean, Kali is Kali. You know, tough love sometimes is the way. And sometimes we need to say things that may have some harsh aspect, but may also be necessary, isn't it? Or what do you think about that?
Yes, but we are usually very quickly ready to criticize.
Yeah.
To have a look at the others first and see what's wrong, instead of having a good look at ourselves and see what's wrong maybe in the situation. So basically, you cannot apply any rule to all the situation, but basically as a rule of thumb, let's first have a good look at ourselves and see, am I criticizing because somehow I'm just miffed and it doesn't fit into my expectation what is happening, and so instead of working on my expectation, it's easier to criticize others. And then maybe first make order in ourselves, and then if we feel, yes, it's perfectly justified to give a critique, then we can really do that. And if we do that in a friendly way without mixing it with anger and hatred, then it can be something very constructive. If we're getting all emotionally swept away while criticizing, then usually it doesn't bring much good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. That gives me a good picture of the two sides. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Werner.
You are welcome. Hario. Hario. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Welcome to come.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Nelly.
Yeah, I have a question. One thing came to me, and I want to ask your opinion. I said that I often regret that I did something bad in my past with my daughter, and these thoughts come up to me from time to time, and now we don't have good communication with her. Yeah, and of course I think of it and regret, and some thoughts come up, and when I feel these thoughts come, I try to wish her well and to yes, to feel something good to her and some positive, and it helps. And yesterday it came something to me that I told with myself like my daughter talks with me. So I said to myself something good what I feel, just like she told me about it, like she understands me and don't judge me, and feel some gratitude for me for all good things that we had together, that I've done. So I felt very good. Yes, like when she in real life she did something, she told me sometimes something like this, and it was very pleasant. Yes. And yesterday I told it to myself, just yes, like in this way. Yes, and felt very good. Yes, because it was honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I shared it with some people. Yeah, and some people approved me, but my mentor in the program that I go through, and this is STEPS program. Yeah. I have a mentor. She said that this is a deceit when you do like this, that you deceit yourself doing like this. Yes, I thought about it, but I don't feel that I deceit. Because essentially it means for me that I maybe encourage myself and do some approval, some approval to myself. I thought about it, and I want to ask your opinion. What do you think about it?
No, I don't think it's wrong when you do that. I don't agree with that leader of that STEPS program that this is not good. Just don't get. I mean, we can push everything to limits and beyond limits, and then you somehow can get into such a habit that you become dependent on it. But that would not be good. But doing that sometimes, the way you have been doing it, is perfectly valid to help you to put a bit in proportion instead of, you said often you are regretting and feeling guilty about things. And then you neutralize that, you can very well give yourself a bit positive feedback sometimes. And be aware, I did not only bad things, I just did what I could at that time, and some things they were not so lucky, okay? So don't make it into a habit of which you become dependent, but if once in a while you feel like doing so, then this is perfectly valid. Don't worry about it.
Hey, thank you, Werner.
Okay.
Yes, I even I even wrote some messages for myself, not from my daughter, but from myself to support.
Yeah.
Yes, today I felt that it helps me to, yes, just to prove myself, because maybe I really need it.
Yeah.
Just to tell myself something good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfectly well. Whatever helps to help you relax, to help you let go of tensions that you are holding on to, is basically valid. If you do that, if you use it like this, that if you do that, and then that gives you a good feeling there, then you relax in it, and you see that the tensions you have been holding on to, that made you now write these messages, or made you now give yourself a speech like positive feedback, as if it was your daughter that talks to you, that these things were full of tensions. And if this gives you relaxation by doing so, by talking to you or writing to you, then use it to see that tension and let it go. Not that you still hold on to it and then just make a habit out of it, to momentarily feel a bit pleased. And if you use it like this, that you get more peaceful in the moment, and with that peacefulness there is a greater clarity, and in that greater clarity you see more what has really gone on, and see how it is still bubbling and working in you, that it comes even now still to disturb you. There you can start to relax and let it go. And then if your talking to you and writing to you has helped you to do so, then it has done a very good job.
Okay, thank you very much, Werner.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Hariom.
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 Hello, Werner.
Hello, I hear a
Leora.
voice.
Yeah, Leora.
Hello,
Hi.
Leora. Now I see you. Hello.
Hello. So, in connection to to Maria and Nelly, when I was on the retreat, I felt something like came up to me about modesty or humbleness as a quality that I felt that supports less of me. I felt like standing in front or before the wonder of creation, and somehow feeling that like respect to the wonder of creation. And I felt there was some kind of space, and it developed into also connecting with vulnerability in a way that like feeling we are all vulnerable. Doesn't matter if she said or if he said, and who said what, and who is better and who is whatever. Now, something funny, the other day I felt that I'm not different from any other creature who isn't even a human being. Like when I see my daughter-in-law and she sees a small an ant, she goes to the ant and she starts making relationships with the ant, like it's on her hand, and she looks at it and she follows its movement. It's very sweet. And then I felt a very strange, like it was both feeling and thought that actually, yeah, so there is no difference between me and other creatures, and maybe I'm just like an ant or a worm that thinks that I'm Leora, and actually really, maybe I'm just a worm. No, I mean, you know, it sounds really funny, but there was some volume there. It it came from very, you know, unknown. I've never heard it anywhere, and like unknown direction, unknown space. It doesn't mean that I'm happier now. I'm not. It's strange. It's a little bit strange, and connecting to vulnerability also. I think I spoke about it somehow also last time. Connecting to vulnerability in a very honest and respectful manner. In a way, you know, it helps letting go, but at the same time, of course, I'm like very, very shaky somehow. Strong and grounded, at the same time, very shaky and very sensitive.
Yeah. Right. You, as a being, are not vulnerable. But as soon as it's coming to manifestation, an expression of what you are, of course, there on that level, that expression is vulnerable. And the worm and the human are equally vulnerable. Essentially, you are the same. Then in the degree of consciousness, of course, there is a certain differences. But that doesn't make us essentially different from the worm, from the ant, from the mosquito. And it's nice that awareness opens up of feeling connected with them, not basically, not essentially different. At the same time, on the practical level, we can play our role, that the human has another role than an ant has in this world. and has other perimeters how to behave and how vulnerable the body is, but it's all a game. That the Leora is a role that you are playing. It's not what you are. And that role has certain limitations, has certain weaknesses, can be hurt, but not you. You are not limited by that. You cannot be hurt by that. You can be aware of both. Essentially, you are totally invulnerable. And at the same time, as a manifestation, anything can happen anytime, any moment.
Yeah.
And becoming aware of the magnificency of creation, it's good. It's making you humble. Humility is a good thing if it's honest, real humility. Actually, is strength. It's not weakness. Humility is not groveling on the ground in front of others and oh, I'm so small. You are so great. But it's just developing that of what magnificence that there is really there.
Okay. That was
Okay.
beautiful. Thank you.
Mario, you are
Hari Om.
welcome. Anybody else would like to talk? You are welcome to talk.
Hi, Werner.
Hello, Kristen.
Hey. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I have a question about the dream and the wake state. And it has happened the last 2 months that very often when I think of something, when I'm in a quite relaxed state, then a thinking is coming. And then this memory is coming. And then I find out that the memory, I asked myself, did I really experience this? And I realized it comes from a dream maybe 10, 20 years ago or so. And it seems like the wall between the wake life and the dream life is quite transparent in my situation right now.
Yeah.
And I feel it's opening, and I was just wondering if you had any advice on how to make this kind of a practice, or when this happened, I mean, I feel it's an opening, but I'm still quite astonished. It's like, oh, this is a dream memory. How weird. But maybe there's some way I could go about it.
Yes, I cannot give you any technique how to increase that, but I don't think that you need to do so.
Mm-hmm.
If you are here and the memory comes, and that memory is valuable for you at this moment to somehow help you to go the next step, then that when memory is perfectly valid, and it doesn't really matter where it's coming from which level.
Mm-hmm.
This waking story is also a dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's not that much different from the dreaming experience.
Yeah.
And if a memory from a night sleeping dream comes to you after years in a particular situation, then that means that memory has a certain meaning. It can give you a pointer. It can give you a help for what you are busy with right now. But I would not necessarily recommend that you make now efforts of going after dream memories because of that.
Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-mm. No, and it's more like because it happens so often and it hasn't happened like that before.
Yeah.
I more see it like that there's some transparency happening And like you say, that this world is also not so real, and maybe it could be like a pointer or somehow. There's a cat here. A doorway. I was just wondering if maybe you were aware of some way that I could more go from that point to deepen from that point.
Right. If you become more aware that after all, they are not so very different. The memories that come from dreams or the memories that come from the so-called waking story, then it can very much help you in the present not to take this waking story so serious. Okay, it's a dreamlike story that is happening. I'm here to learn, to grow, to face challenges, beautiful ones and not so nice ones. And for the sake of accumulating experience and unfolding consciousness. And then if we look at our life story, then we stop taking the details so serious and it stops to be such an overwhelming thing all the time. This so-called reality that is not so real. So this may help you to, when this happens now more, to remember, hey, both are just experiences. And the past from this waking story is also just a memory. It doesn't have any other reality. It's just a memory.
Oops, sorry. It's the neighbor cat.
The cat has turned on off the camera.
I went inside because the sun is so bright outside, and then the cat came in, and now it's sitting on my lap.
Yeah.
And putting the claws into my chest.
I see.
Sorry for the distraction.
No problem.
Sorry, I was interrupting.
This memory that comes from this waking story is also just a memory. And the memory that comes from the dream is also a memory. And the memory from the waking story is not more real than the memory from the dream. We just give it a false reality because we have somehow gotten so fixed on this waking story that and thought about it so much that it has become so solid. And we believe in the reality, the chronological reality from point 0 when we were born till point X when we not more will be there. But actually only now you are touching reality. And all else is a decoration. It's just a momentary appearance. It's an expression of that reality that you are touching now. And the memory from the past has a reality as a memory now. But apart from that, it's not more real than the memory from the dream. And if we become more aware of that, it's also easier and easier in the present to put it in the right place. The material, apparent reality, okay, it's just a stage where we can experience. It's not so important. The details are not so important. Whether we are always as successful as we would like to be is not so important. Whether people are always giving us positive or not positive feedback, it's not so important. Then everything becomes lighter, easier.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a good inspiration. I'll listen again without the cat afterwards.
Yes, okay.
A little more concentration.
Maybe
Thank
the
you,
cat
Werner.
also got the pointer.
Yeah. Of course. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari
Hari
Om.
Om.
Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Hello, Lutz.
Hello, Werner. Yeah, I'm in a quite difficult phase of my life. I'm quite shaken. In order to make something good of it, I would call it the opening of the heart by breaking it. I have broken up a while ago with a relationship.
Yes.
And these breakups are always painful, and at times it was very painful. And recently my brother died.
Yes.
And in the last weeks of his life, we mysteriously opened very much up to each other, and it was a very loving relationship.
Yeah.
Just for some weeks, basically.
Right.
The best, the closest relationship I ever had with him, the most loving brotherly time I had with him in the last weeks of his life.
Yes.
And also, I met him before I visited him, and after my visit, he died.
Yes.
So it was a great opening of my heart, and at the same time, he left. He was gone, and in a way, he was also still there.
Yeah.
And it started to kind of open up some kind of Pandora box of pain and sadness, and yeah, it kind of took basically put me off center. It kind of created something that I'm confused now. I'm not really clear, although I'm telling myself, just watch these things happening and so, but it's actually bullshit. I'm crying often, and I feel that I cannot make clear thoughts, and I also have the feeling that some of his confusion has come into me. I also organized the funeral, and I held a speech and put him into the earth, the urn and everything. And I've also a feeling that this whole thing, I was very open, and somehow some kind of energies floating around there, and somehow my relationship with my brother, everything, there's something came in which confused me. And it's still there. It's still not. It's still not over. And I'm really sometimes a little bit on my knees. I feel that I cannot manage by myself. That somehow it is very helpful for me if I invite some friends or be with some friends who are completely out of this situation and are just normal people, or attending your satsang right now. I feel a little bit some little spark of distance from all these things has flashed up when I kind of join into the satsang. It's just a completely different energy field from my kind of stormy, churned up pain cloud, or you want to call it. So I'm a little bit overwhelmed by it, and at the same time I also realize that there's some fascination about this kind of pain and madness and all these things. I mean, one could maybe easier deal with it if it has not also some kind of weird aliveness in it, some kind of intensity, and yeah, I'm in a way I'm also feeling very alive, but I'm very confused, and yeah, so I'm patting myself on the back that it is all just a process to kind of open my heart and let things out there, and everything will be good after a while, and blah blah blah. But at the moment I'm in the middle of it, and on top of that, there are some challenging situations from outside relating to my unemployment and money and job and something like this. And I had a little accident with my bicycle. I fell on the ground because I was not attentive, so I'm not functioning properly. So it's all a bit kind of a who situation. Some yeah. So what would be your main advice?
My main advice first is accept that it is as it is. Because if you are making it harder by thinking it shouldn't be like this, then it's getting worse. Then you are spending a lot of energy fighting against the fact that your experience is as it is. And on the other side, what you are doing is great. That you say, okay, it's a process. Something is happening. It's not necessarily pleasant what is happening, but at least something is happening. Part of a purification process, that it's churning. And if you are not resisting against it so much, it's less painful. It's still, the pain will sometime come. Somehow a certain amount of pain we just cannot avoid. And so it's better to embrace it than trying to push it away. It's just a postponement, and maybe it's getting worse after that. But continue doing what you have been doing since a long time. Connect with that something solid in you. Even if this is happening, even if there is that churning stuff going on, there's something in you, an aspect that is not affected by it. It is like a rock. It's simply there. And all this is like the waters of destiny that flows around it and flows, bangs against it and flows this side and that side. But something in you is not affected by that. Just remind yourself again and again, connect with that. And then, even if the attention is sucked again and again on levels that are stormy, that are sometimes painful, that awareness is growing, but it's not so much of a big deal, because actually there is that aspect that is not affected. And bring the attention back to that again and relax in that.
Yeah, the problem is that the whole thing is this kind of feeling bubble, which is very much connected with my heart. It blocks that connection with that which is beyond, and I have also I'm really losing it. That's all I can say. I mean, I'm in the deepest sense, I know I cannot get lost.
Yes.
And there is some kind of sense that there's something beyond it all which is watching it and which is not affected. But
Right.
that is so faint, that goes so much in the background.
Yeah.
And can also not function. That's a little bit the disturbing thing. That
Yes,
even some normal thing like bicycle driving, suddenly my attention slips away. I do some little mistake and I have a little accident.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, I mean that's a small thing, but it happened, and it's adding to the kind of oh my God, what's happening with me, and something like that.
Right.
So it's very what I can just say is, of course, there's nothing left for me to do of trying to connect with that which is beyond all that, but it's the situation itself brings me away from it, and kind of sabotages also my at easeness, my being relaxed and just watching what's happening. It's just too intense to do that.
Right. And you called it your emotional bubble. It's like standing in between, that you don't feel that connection. But
Yeah.
In your mental makeup, somehow that connection is to something beyond, something out there somewhere.
Well, I mean, in with the language, it's difficult to describe, because it's not somewhere. It's always here. So
Right.
it's not somewhere, but this awareness of just being here, it gets somehow disturbed.
Right.
I feel it. Yeah.
Sure it does. And periods like this can happen. And then I still say, as good as you can. Don't just give up on it, on attempting to consciously connect with that aspect of you that is not affected. Even if you are not succeeding so very well, the very attempt gives a little bit a different feel to the whole emotional. Immediately it's less important. Even if you feel I cannot really good conscious connect, but just attempting it makes the other more relative. And accept, all right, it may be a bit harsh, rough time I have to go through. I promise you, nothing is for nothing. All we are going through, all the strains, all the pains, we are also, without being aware, subtly accumulating something very precious, and eventually we are going to reap the fruit of that.
Yeah.
I cannot do a miracle that it is now just over. Just don't feel somehow that you do something wrong that this is happening. But just accept, all right, this is part of my life experience. I have to go through this period. And if we're not resisting immediately, it's easier to deal with it.
Yeah, I need to hear such things, because sometimes it gets even more weirder, and I want to run away in some way.
Yeah.
And I know that is not good, and it is not what I should do. And yeah, I'm just where I'm at, and yeah, I thank you that you are there and encouraging me to kind of stay with it and deal with it in a healthy way, rather than kind of doing some weird thing like maybe drinking or running away to Hawaii or
Yeah. Unfortunately, it will follow you.
yeah.
Don't worry, Lutz, it will pass. It will get easier.
Good. All things must pass.
Yes. It will pass.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hario, Hario, wish you well. Is there anybody else who would like to talk? Okay, say something more.
Hello,
Somebody is coming. Hello, Dial.
hello, Werner. Sorry for disturbance. My microphone by itself sometimes
Turns on.
switch on. So last days I'm thinking that this life is not stable. It's very fragile,
Yeah,
and our plans may not happening as we want to live the life. And I'm thinking, what should I hold on? Because all the conditions or my plans I cannot hold for sure.
right.
And I realize that I should only think that I can hold on in spiritual way.
Hmm.
But I would like to formulate quickly what is this. But it was one thing, another things, one technique, another technique. So
Yeah.
difficult to hold on the technique. Much easier for religious people who are believe in God and they holding to the God, and it's much more simple and understandable. So, what your advice? How to hold on spiritual way?
Yes.
Anything?
I mean, right now is a very strange period. That's also then in the personal life, it's manifesting more often with more difficulties. There is something going on this planet right now, a heavy battle of energies. So it's only natural that what Lutz also said right now, that personally we may go through difficult times because the whole energetic thing is so churned up that then the personal energies also are churned up. And you are right now you cannot really plan because you don't know what direction it will take tomorrow. The whole thing is so crazy right now. There's no way of planning. You can plan, but you cannot be aware that it may absolutely not be possible to fulfill your plans. So what should you do? By all means, you have repeatedly now already talked about that devotional attitude. So it's an aspect that is wanting to come to the surface in you. And you need not oppose it to what you have been doing these years, but you can combine it. Now, apply all that you have learned from the Vipassana practice that you have done. When you're facing things, you watch your reactions, you watch your body sensations, you are aware of your breath, but at the same time, you can. It's not either this or. At the same time, you can also open your heart to that divine guidance in whatever form or formless you conceive of that. And put your faith into the hands of that divinity. It's not that you should do either this or the other, because you have been practicing so long the Vipassana, don't throw it away, but you can add to that. Even if it's not the official script of Goenka, what you have learned, then you create your own path now, which with a synthesis of devotion and Vipassana. Then you can have the benefit of both of them.
Yes, I feel this support from Vipassana and from devotional aspect. I only see it quite different things. So, and if it last moment of my life, if I should choose one thing, it will be a difficult choice.
Right. And this was in your life story like this. First you were there in that Hare Krishna movement, and then you shifted to Vipassana, and then it was this and not the other. And recently it came out a number of times that you long to have that connection, that devotional connection again. And that doesn't mean now you throw away the Vipassana because of that, but now is the time that you bring the two together and you become aware. They are not two opposites. You can very well synthesize the two. And even if the Vipassana teacher didn't talk in favor of that, you in your story, you can do that.
Yes, I see. By Vipassana, we can open God inside of ourselves.
Right.
So it's same direction.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Werner. Thank you. I
You're
just
welcome.
feel this divine presence and no need to formulate it, special words or special
Right.
religion.
And you don't need to go and seek approval of somebody whether this is right for you to do. You have the right to forge your own spiritual path. Actually, everybody is doing that to some extent. Even those who follow a tradition, still each one is a little bit doing their traditional thing different. And there's nothing wrong that after that you for yourself bring together elements that don't necessarily come from the same tradition, if it feels right for you. And then you don't have that dilemma, now I'm doing this and now I'm doing that, but no, they come together.
Okay, thank you, Werner. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. I just want to say to the same subject that I just told to Dial, in my story, it was very much a synthesis. First, it was mainly jnana, but at the same time, there was devotion and there was yoga. And the three were always there. It never caused a problem for me. For some people, they were always shifting. They're saying, "Oh, now I'm again devotional. Now I'm again on the jnana." And it seemed for them to be a contradiction, and that thing I never had to struggle with. But it somehow came naturally, and we can do so. It's not at all that if we are doing a certain thing, we have to just literally do exactly as it is somewhere prescribed by a teacher or in a book, but we can take out whatever helps us and synthesize it in our own way, and then suddenly devotion and jnana and yoga in all its many, many different aspects, they can flow together. And become more powerful for that. We just have to have the courage also to do so, to go our own way. And then I come back to what I have been talking with Lutz. When I said to him, I really, sincerely, very honestly mean what I say. Nothing is for nothing. And when I look back in my life, there have been all kinds of difficult periods, but there was that period where really my reality crumbled down and I suffered hell. before, from the jnana, I was saying it's all relative, it's not real, but when it really crumbled, I suffered hell, but I suffered hell. Why? Because I totally resisted. In spite of telling before, it's not real, but when somehow the reality, as an experience, the reality of it started to collapse, because it didn't happen in a way that I expected or that was favorable to me as I felt then. There was the total resistance and there was the total suffering because of that. That suffering was self-created. And it went on and was getting worse and worse. And I really got nuttier and nuttier until somehow I started to feel, hey, it's not for nothing, it's not completely lost, it's somehow just something I have to go through. And then I learned to let go and resist less. And then I stopped resisting and just didn't have a clue what's going on. But I stopped resisting and then it stopped being total terror all the time. It stopped being suffering all the time. There were still a lot of unpleasant things happening inside, outside. But when the resistance was gone, then it was much easier to deal with. And then eventually I came out and there a new experience emerged and peace came. And when I look back, that most turbulent phase in my life, that most painful phase, as long as that resistance was there, the most painful phase was the one phase that brought most of it. It's not for nothing that we are going through these things. You, as a spiritual being, are never really incarnated. You are pure and unaffected beyond time and space. And from there, that state, timeless, spaceless, a part of us is projecting into this magic show, into this time-space continuum. And we come totally aware that we are facing challenges. And in spite of that, we come full of enthusiasm into this world. Once the story starts, birth takes place, the whole rest, except in a few rare exceptions, the whole rest disappears and forgetting is there. We are not more aware of our divine nature and are identified with our little story. We know that it's going to happen and yet still we do that projection because we know with all these confrontations there, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm outgrowing the need to do this kind of stuff again. But it makes perfectly sense. And many challenges will not be pleasant, have unpleasant side effects. Often it may be painful, but we can reduce that unpleasantness and that painfulness a lot by not struggling against it when things are not going the way we like them most. It's nothing it's for nothing. Not a drop of all the tensions, the pains, the struggles we are going through is in vain. It's accumulating something beautiful. And once we are through it and see what it has done, then we may look back and think, great, I went through all this. Okay, as we started later, We can also make a bit longer. Is there somebody else who ran away would like to say something more?
Actually, I would like to say something more.
Yeah.
Again, today some friends came to visit and they asked me all these questions about how my life here in the village where I live, because I moved from Jerusalem and we're friends there, so they came to see. And I really exposed myself and answered all the questions very sincerely. Shared also, somebody asked me, it was only 3. One of the women asked me, how do I, about my daily schedule, because yeah, after I've moved here. And when do I wake up in the morning? And then I mentioned some sleeping difficulties, which I've had for many, many, many years. And then I decided to take sleeping pills because I just decided I don't live forever, and it was always a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So they went like, this is not like you. We wouldn't think that you would take sleeping pills. It's not like you.
Yeah.
So I felt like somebody squeezed my heart or hit me in my belly, saying, this is not like you. Yeah, you go to Vipassana and you stay for the whole 10 days. You don't live there. You don't live in the middle, or you don't take sleeping pills, or I don't do so. And right away, which is very not like me, I said, this is not something nice to say to somebody. I don't like it. It's unpleasant for me to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not happy to hear it. And they were shocked.
Yeah.
Then I felt I had to comfort them because I was so lost about, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just wanted to tell it because it really connected to what people shared here. So worried about who we are and how we do things and how people react to us. And then somebody tells you, of course, I know it's not like me because I'm so spiritual and all that, but I can't sleep. So I need sleeping pills. I mean, I don't like not sleeping. So now I'm telling it and I'm smiling, but when they said it, I was like,
oops. Can you still hear me? I cannot more hear you. I don't know whether the connection. Can anybody else hear me? I said the connection was bad for a moment, but it seems to work again. Yeah. Anyhow, you were. I haven't gotten you till the end. What you were saying.
No, I just said that now I'm telling it, and I feel very supported also by all the sharings of the other people, and but it stayed with me, and now I'm okay. But it was quite a shock for me that people react like, this is not like you. I mean,
yes, but then you can also learn not to take it so serious, and if in the moment you're reacting, then after that, when the moment is gone, then okay, you may also have reacted. And so what? All these stories, they are not so important. It doesn't matter so much. And people have ideas about you, what you, from what they know about you, what you should and should not do, and then sometimes they are getting a bit upset if you don't fulfill all their expectations about how you should be. But then that's not the problem. For a moment it may have rattled you a bit, but then after that you just let it go. And if you have reacted to that, then if it's heavy in a situation, you can also apologize, but I don't think it was such a big deal what you said. So then you can also not worry that this has happened. So what?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you do what you feel is right. And if you feel it's right to take sleeping pills, then you don't ask other people's opinions about it.
Yeah.
But maybe you just choose a bit what you tell to whom.
Right, right. Yeah, I know that. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's part of the play.
It's part of the play, right? I'm not always so good in choosing like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
And then you have to bear the consequences.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah. No,
Thank
but
you, Werner.
no problem, huh? Hari Om. Hari Om.
Thank you.
Okay. Shall we stop for today? If there is not something urgent suddenly, then I think we finish for today. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.